I'm definitely freelance. I'm working on my first record right now as a leader, but mostly as a composer and player. But I'm on about 100 CDs, and I play with a lot of different people. And I do that because I find that it brings, the music seems to cross-pollinate itself. So when I'm working with one particular band, I can take a lot of ideas from other types of music and sort of come up with what I hope is a common language, a common thread. We're talking about the voice here. And, uh, and I think by doing all these projects, it sort of enhances your musicianship because each style is very different. I travel quite a bit. I'm in Europe pretty much every month, if not every couple of weeks. I mean, there are seasons where it's slower or it's more busy. But I do work a lot in Europe, and I have been doing that my entire career. Of course, in the States as well. But, well, as an example, I did a tour in Spain. It was a tribute to Elvin, who was actually my teacher. My first set of drums were Elvin's, but that's another story. And so I did a tribute to him. That was with Sonny Fortune, Eddie Henderson, Frank Lacy, Larry Willis, and Miguel Angel Chastain was the bass player. From there, I went to Italy, and I worked with the Parma Frontieri Orchestra. It's a large, I would say it's about 20 odd pieces. It's woodwind, strings. Basically, this ensemble meets once a year in Italy, and we will spend a week rehearsing. Usually it's based on a theme. We've done Ulysses, we've done Macbeth, and all the music is written, and it's a pool of musicians throughout Europe who come together and work on this, and we do a record and a concert. From there, I went to Germany for 3 weeks, and there I worked with Jürgen Friedrich and actually a New Orleans native, Baton Rouge, John Hebert on bass, and myself. We did 3 weeks in Germany. The last week was with Dave Liebman in quartet. We also did a record there, and we've put out 4 CDs already as a trio. Then I had a little break, and then I went to LA with Jean-Michel Pilk, piano player, and Thomas Bramery. We played at the Bakery. Then we went to Dizzy's in San Diego. Then I had a few weeks off, and then I went to Istanbul and Baku in Azerbaijan with a guitar player. Very interesting. He plays double neck guitar. He's Turkish, but he lives in Amsterdam. But double neck guitar, no frets. But he's very heavy into traditional Turkish music. So he's got that sound. And he co-leads the quartet with Greg Osby, and it was Hans Glowishnig on bass. And that was all odd meter. That was great. That was great. Great band. Especially playing in a place like Azerbaijan, Istanbul. I mean, cities that I love. Istanbul I knew, but Baku I didn't. And I love music for that you get a chance to see the whole world. From there I went to Mexico with Dave Phillips. He's Bar Phillips' son. He lives here in New York. Great bass player. We've done 3 records now, I believe. The band is called Freedance with John O'Gallagher on alto, Reza Bassi on guitar. And we did Mexico. We're actually going back out pretty soon. And then I went with Bruce Arnold after that to Moscow. And we played at the Dom there in Moscow with John Gunther, and Dave was on bass on this one. From there I ended up in Asheville, North Carolina. I got a commission to write music, and I wrote a book of trio music, which we just recorded recently, which might be on my record, I'm not sure. So in terms of that, yeah, you have to go where the music is. And the more creative you are, I think, the more you have to realize, you have to put that as a premium, that in order to play creative music, you have to get to know the airports of the world on a very intimate basis. But like Bill Evans said, you know, yeah, you're spending 14, 20 hours traveling, but you know, the minute you start playing, you're already in the zone. You're there for a purpose. And it's a great feeling to play a week or 2 weeks. Europe tends to be the place I go the most. I think a lot of that has to do with where I live. I mean, I was born in New York City, in Manhattan. This is my home. This is my town. And for me, New York has always represented the gateway to the rest of the world. We know that. We know it's a center for economics and politics and culture. But I think New York has a very special place historically, in that it has been a two-way portal, so to speak, to the rest of the world. And so a lot of these opportunities came up because of where I live. I also made a conscious decision at one point when I graduated music school at Manhattan School of Music. I was trying to support myself playing creative music in New York. At that time, there were very few venues to work. There were obviously the standard places, but for a young player, it was very, very rough. And the music that I was into was also, I would say, in some respects, European. I was very influenced by ECM, and I continue to be. It was a very fundamental part of my overall sound. I think a lot of that had to do with me starting as a piano player, and my mother being a harpist and a classical musician. But I found that whole school of music to be very moving to me personally. Well, things were very tough financially. I was gigging, but it was very hard times. And I moved to Europe. And it took a few trips, but I eventually did move. And I lived throughout Europe, throughout Western Europe. So I know Europe very, very well. In some respects, probably better than I know my own country. But I'm grateful for that because always feel like I'm going home when I go to play in Europe. And the support and the love of culture that exists there is such a supportive feeling for a working player. And I'm just very grateful. You know, for the small opportunities to go and travel is great because you see the world. And when you take music around the world and you hear other people and you share it with people, I mean, music is a religious experience. It is a communal experience. And this is a very, very important thing for every musician to have. I think every young musician, when they graduate college, should do a URL pass in a backpack and pick somewhere in the world to go. South America, Africa. Africa is a very moving place to go. Asia, Europe, and see that the world is a very big place. And it's a fantastic place. I would like to say this. I did mention John Hebert earlier, and I have a lot of friends of mine in New Orleans. That city impacts me very strong as a musician. I remember one night in particular playing the late, late set at the Funky Butt and taking a walk alone in the middle of the night to Congo Square. And how moved I was, 2 tears, because I felt what that city meant to me as an American, as a jazz musician, as a musician. And my heart goes out to everybody there. It's a very, very close thing to my heart, and all my prayers go out to everybody.